Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast is provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters.
Young man, take a look at me now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Winners Circle segment. Our guest today has won 2 FLW Western Series Angler of the Year titles. He has 6 tour level wins in his 15-year career. He's also qualified for 2 FLW title events and has been a dominant name in Western events since 2006. He won the first Wild West Fast Trail event for the 2021 season this past weekend at Lake Shasta with a 2-day total of 23 pounds, 23.45. Jeff Michels, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us today.
Keith, thanks a lot, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that weight kind of threw me. I'm used to saying pounds and ounces, but I know we're talking hundreds there, not pounds and ounces. But I also know that when you fish Lake Shasta, you got to do it in hundreds because those fish are all close, right?
Yeah, especially right now, boy. There's just a ton of 1.5 to 1.6, 1.7 fish. So all the weights were really stacked up behind me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on a great win. The event almost didn't happen. I mean, I was watching guys' Instagram and they were posting things about, oh, this might not happen and all this kind of stuff. What was going on behind the scenes there? Was it COVID related?
Yeah, it sure was. The county got involved, the state got involved, and Shasta Lake happens to be managed by the Forest Service, so a federal agency got involved. And thank goodness we had Doug Lamalfa get a hold of all those folks, and he talked some sense into them, and they let us do it.
Yeah, it's almost like the authorities found out some guys were out there having fun. Hey, we can't be doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, my experience on Lake Shasta, first of all, one of my favorite lakes, but my experience on Lake Shasta is that it is not hard to get a 5-fish limit, but most limits are going to be in, as you said, that 6 to 7 pound range, which is just not going to win there at any time. In the events I've fished at Shasta, I feel like my balance beam is my most important piece of equipment. It seems like a lot of anglers fall into that really dangerous trap of trying to upsize, 0.10 at a time. Is that something you've seen there?
Yeah, and even I still, I've fished this lake for 40 plus years, and I'll fall into that trap, just trying to pound through the numbers game and hope that you finally find a couple that help you out. And my belief is that if you're catching a bunch of small ones, you just need to move. And every time you catch 3 or 4 small ones, you got to move because they're just schooled up. The buck and a halfers are all together, and if you sit there, you can catch 100 fish in a day, but they're all going to be a pound and a half, and it's just not going to. Like you say, you got to break that darn balance beam out, and you'll just burn up your whole day balancing
Right.
fish.
I've been in the middle of that so many times. That big pack of people that are separated by about a half a pound. It's just it's frustrating. 0.01 at a time. All right.
Yeah.
Coming into this event, what did you think it was going to take per day to win this thing?
Boy, so I had 2 trains of thoughts on that, Keith. I either thought, and it turned out to be the first train of thought was correct, about 23, 24, or there was going to be a couple guys put together a swim bait pattern on just 3 or 4 key spots and just blow everyone out of the water. 32, 34, somewhere in there, and that almost happened. There was some swim bait bites to be had, but they're not taking it real well. So the finesse stuff kind of won out.
Yeah, that's another trap you can fall into at that lake is you can see 30-pound limits following you back to the boat all day, but they have to bite too. There's a couple of traps you can fall into at that place. All right. So what did you learn during pre-fish? You had 2 or 3 days of pre-fish, and what did you discover during that period of time? Because I feel like these events are usually won in that stretch, that learning period.
Yeah, you're right. And we had originally we had 2 days of practice, scheduled practice, and then with the COVID craziness happening, the event went from a 3-day event down to a 2-day event. So it gave us that a third. I called it a bonus day, and I wasn't on a whole bunch. 8.5 for the first 2 practice days, and that bonus day I just lucked onto a couple spots and got some big bait bites, and I caught a couple fish throwing down baits, and 2 key areas, and I stuck it out in those 2 key areas. Normally I run and gun on Shasta. Like I say, if I catch small fish, I just move, fishing 30 to 40 points a day. But I just found a couple key spots. In fact, the last day after the initial run, I started having problems late in the day because my batteries were getting low. My cranker battery was getting low because I was running 3 graphs, aerator, and I probably ran the big motor 5 minutes. So I hunkered down in one spot and just ground it out right there. And I still caught a ton of fish, and there were some small ones in there, but I had some confidence that there was some larger fish in the area. So, boy, I wanted to run. I wanted to run really bad, but I stuck it out and spent about 9 hours in one spot.
So just so you know, I'm assuming you're going to be fishing the Toyota Series event there in a week or so, right?
Yep, sure am.
So we're going to make sure we don't post this until that event is over. So anything you say here will not be used by anybody to come back and get you. So I don't want to put that kind of pressure on you. So day 1, if you don't mind saying, what rods are on your deck? What baits are attached to those rods?
So day 1, I had 4 spinning rods on the right side and 3 bait casting rods on the left side. The left side all had swim baits and 1 jerk bait. So there was a Hog Hunter swim bait on the left side, a Shasta Bass Baits 5-inch swim bait, and a Mega Bass rip bait on that side. And then the right side, like I say, 4 spinning rods, a Nico Rig Cinco, a weightless Cinco, a Fatty Z, and a float and fly rod. And I never did pick up. Well, I picked up that float and fly rod a couple times, but I didn't pick it up. 3 or 4 casts, and I'd put it back down. The Cinco did most of the heavy lifting for me. I did catch a couple big bait fish, but the Cinco, I weighed 8 out of 10 on the Cinco.
We're going to have to maybe in another episode come back and talk to you about that floating fly thing. That is something that I think is pretty unique, and we'll want to ask more about that at another time. But that's interesting to me. So let's talk about day 1. So you brought in 11.5. Did that exceed expectations, or was that about where you thought it was going to be? And did everything kind of go to plan, or?
So the 11.5 mark, I was really happy with it. It was more than I expected. I would have been happy with 9, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
During practice, I knew there was some good fish where I was fishing, but I didn't know the quality of fish that were in there. So 9.5 of 10, I would have been ecstatic. And when I had 11.5, I thought I had done pretty well. And then as soon as I got to weigh in and heard the weights, I was like, wow, I actually did a little bit better than I even thought I did. So I was really happy with that.
Koppel Outfitters specializes in adventure gear. Anything you need for getting outside, Koppel Outfitters has it and more. Go have an adventure now. We are talking to Jeff Michels. He is the winner of the Wild West Bass Tour first event of 2021 at Lake Shasta. That I think is the first pro event anywhere, if I'm doing my background checking right. So you're the first winner of the year. Congratulations.
Right on.
Yeah. So I mean, there've been some team events, but not a pro event. So day 2, you brought in almost 12 pounds. Any adjustments? Did you fish the same water with the same baits? Just a couple better bites, or what happened there?
So that day 1, I actually ran about 3/4 of the way up the McLeod and fished a couple spots, and that was totally by plan and by design. I had two key spots up there with a possible third, and I went up and I caught a limit in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and I missed a couple good bites on the Hog Hunter swim bait again. Then I ran back to the sack. When I got to the sack, I probably had 7.5, 8 pounds, and I ended up culling the boat by noon. And then I got a couple key upgrades about 2:30, and then they just totally shut off. I didn't get anything after that. So after that, I on day 2, I just made it up in my mind, I'm not going to waste the 40 minutes to run all the way up the sack. I mean, all the way up the McLeod, and then turn around and run all the way back up the sack. So I just stuck it out in the sack and stayed up there the entire time. It was really interesting. There was 4 or 5 boats all around me in the morning, and by 10 o'clock, it was just a ghost town up there, which worked perfect for me. There was no one around, and all my spots were wide open. So yeah, that move worked out. If I'd have ran, I wouldn't have won.
For our friends in other parts of the country, you're talking about the McLeod and the Sac. These are rivers that make up Lake Shasta, right?
Yep, correct. There's like 4 major rivers: the McLeod River, the Sacramento River, excuse me,
Yeah.
the Pitt River, and Squaw Creek. And those are the 4 major arms in Shasta Lake. And they're all about, I don't know, at full pool, they're all about 20 miles long.
Yeah. Yeah. Going from the end of the McLeod all the way to the end of the Sacramento, that's a legit run right there.
Yeah, but it was taking me about 35 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Now, there were a couple of 13-pound bags caught in this event, but each one of those was anchored by a real kicker, something in the 5 or 6 pound range. You didn't get a really big fish in this event. You just consistently caught fish that were bigger than the average Lake Shasta spotted bass. You didn't catch any big fish, right? I mean, anything over 3, or did you catch?
Yeah, I had one about 3.5 first day, and one a little over 4 the second day.
Okay, you did have a 4 pounder. Okay, all right, but I know those 13-pound bags were. I mean, those were average fish with a 5 or 6 pounder in them.
Yeah, they both had a 6 pound kicker in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you weighed 23.45 over 2 days, 2.3 average. Very good at math here. In an event where much of the field averaged 1.5 pounds in their fish. Is it just the spots you were on, or is there something about what you're doing there? I mean, what allowed, I mean, you were clearly 0.8 average above the rest of the field. What was the difference?
It's a combination of things. So, I was fishing way up the river channels, and it sets up there a little bit different than it does on the main body of the lake. Right now, the water temp in the main body of the lake is probably pretty darn close from 0 down to 60, 70 feet. I mean, the variation in the temps at 0 feet right on the surface and at 65, 70 feet, probably less than 2 or 3 tenths of a degrees.
Wow.
You go up those river channels and you got that cold water coming in the major rivers. That cold water goes to the bottom, and the temp difference from the surface down to 25, 30 feet, you can bet it's 4 or 5 degrees. So it just constricts those fish. They just don't have as many spots to hide. So, it keeps them in that top 25 or so. So it just makes it easier to target fish. That I truly believe.
Oh, well, but that's a brilliant analysis there. I mean, these fish are going to move to the warmest water they can get to, especially this time of the year. And, that's going to keep them from being down in, the 60 or 70 foot range. They're going to be in water where they're catchable.
Yep. Correct.
That's pretty cool. Now, with so many 1.5 pound fish swimming around in that lake, what kind of things can you do to get these bigger fish? And you just talked about river arms, going fishing up higher in river arms. Is it ever about looking for largemouth there? Or do you ever target smallmouth, or is it just whatever bites? What do you tend to look at at that lake?
So, yeah, I mean, there's a few largemouth, and the largemouth population in Shasta is actually getting considerably better than it was 5 or 7 years ago. But you're still seeing it weigh in. You're still seeing about 99.75% spotted bass.
Wow.
There is a few spots that you can target largemouth, and if you do find them, they tend to run large. and last spring I seen multiple largemouth that were in the 14 to 17 pound class range. So there's some monsters in the lake, but it's just a giant gamble. I mean, if you do that and you don't run across one of those ones, that are a 4+ pound fish, it's just a huge gamble. So it's a lot. It's a lot better if you just target larger spotted bass. And I mean, there's spotted bass. There's the world record spotted bass swimming around in Shasta Lake. I'm pretty confident about it. I've seen some that were pushing the 10-pound mark, and those fish are a little bit easier to target. I mean, they're going to be a little bit more predictable. They're normally going to live on some kind of shallow structure. They love to suspend. They love bridge pilings. They love points and breaks. I mean, and you can target those guys with large swim baits, and you can target the big ones. It's not super easy right now, but I missed 10 bites on a 10-inch swim bait, and if I'd have hooked 3 or 4 of those, it would have been game over early in day 2. But unfortunately, throwing a 10-inch swim bait, even 5 and 6 pound spotted bass are tough to get.
Yeah, I was going to say, in really cold water, like Shasta is, those spotted bass are more consistent than the largemouth, you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I've fished for those darn things with a large swim bait, just crawling around the bottom down to 42 degrees, and they'll still react and go after it. I mean, I truly believe that the biggest of the big spotted bass in Shasta Lake are specialists, and their diet is probably 75% trout. That's what they're after. That's their preferred bait.
Interesting how they transform to that kind of a creature. It's like they become something different than what they were born as.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty interesting.
Koppel Outfitters wants you to go have an adventure now. Koppel Outfitters specializes in adventure gear. Anything you need for getting outside, Koppel Outfitters has it and more. Go have an adventure now.
We are talking with Jeff Michels. He won the 2021 Wild West Bass Trail event at Lake Shasta this past week with a 2-day total of 23.45. Jeff, you've had a lot of success in the West fishing a lot of different kinds of lakes. Now, obviously, you've had some great success at Shasta, but you've done well in the desert too. You've, I think, finished very high at Roosevelt, if I remember. I think you won an event at Meade, correct? So
Correct.
You're not just a Northern California guy. You can fish everywhere. Do you consider yourself a versatile angler, or do you have a certain style preference over other things?
I think I'm extremely versatile, and one great example of that this week, I just signed with Dobbins Rods like a month ago, and I took all my rods out of my boat, made the commitment to go just stack all Dobbins rod on the deck. And a lot of guys would probably say, you need a little more time with those rods, but I had confidence in the product, and I had confidence in myself to where I could just adapt and figure out those rods, and I did it. And those rods actually helped me tremendously in this event. And I could pick up a spinning rod, a cranking rod, a flipping rod, swim bait rod, and I'm pretty confident that I can excel with any of those rods. The punching stuff, I'm horrible at that. I need some practice in that. But other than that, I'm pretty confident I can do it all. I'm not a master in all of those, but I'm pretty proficient in just about any rod I pick up.
Well, you've also had some good events on the Delta, though, haven't you?
Yeah, but most of the time I'm shying away from that grass. Clumpy grass, I can fish that clumpy grass, but that thick manta stuff, I just have not figured that out yet.
Well, it's always good to know that there's something you can learn. Hey, when I was doing my research for this, is it true that you actually won an event and blanked on the last day of the event?
It is. So actually, I've won 2 events. I won one at Shasta several years back where I'd never had to weigh a fish. I did have fish in that event, but you know, I came in on the top 10 day, and they set me on the hot seat, and 10 through number 2 went through, and I never had to weigh a fish to win that one. That one was pretty easy. I had the fish to win, even if someone you know had a pretty good bag. But at Lake Mead, not only did I not weigh a fish on the last day, I didn't even get bit on the last day. That was the longest day of my life out on a lake. It's just like, oh, I'm blowing it. This is mine to win, and I'm just giving it away. And thank goodness it was just, obviously it was meant to be. I mean, I've never heard of anyone else blanking on day. It actually was a 4-day event, blanking on day 4 and still pulling it out.
Well, that's pretty amazing, and that is Lake Mead. Lake Mead can be really really tough like that. Oh, Mike, what are your plans for the rest of the season? You going to fish all of the Wild West tournaments? You going to fish the Toyota Series? What do you? Juan Bass has got a series going this year. What are you going to do?
Yeah, so I got let me think here. I'm fishing 4 team circuits.
Oh, I forgot about team.
Yeah,
I forgot about those.
I got about 20 events there. I got 2 Wild West Pro-Ams left. Actually 3. Yeah. So that's 23. 3 for New Gen, a new circuit on the West Coast. That's 26. 3 for FLW. 29, the US Open, 30, a couple throw-ins here and there, local ones, 32, 33. Plus I go to the coast for 2 months and fish for lingcod and halibut. I'm a pretty busy man right now.
You are busy. Well, thanks for taking time today and talking to us about this great win. Lake Shasta is one of my all-time favorite lakes, and so anytime there's an event there, I kind of zero in and focus in on it. And it's good to meet you and talk to you about your great win. And best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Keith, and we'll be right back after it. A team tournament this Sunday, and then FLW 3 days after that.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters.